Hey there. So my next guest, really cool, does a ton of stuff. She's into social work. She's an adjunct professor. She has her own businesses on the side, and she knows how to judge people the right way using psychology. This is a really fun one. I know you guys are going to love it. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today, I have a very special guest with us. I have Vicki White. Hey, Vicki, how's it going?
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here.
I apologize. I was supposed to say Victoria White, but you introduced yourself as Vicki, and here we are.
I know. I confuse everybody. Victoria, Vicki, V, Vic, everything goes.
I love it. All right. So, Vicki, I like getting the show started, just get right into it. So why don't you go ahead by telling us just a little bit about yourself, please?
Okay. So I'm Vicki from FangirlReview.com. It's a place for all things geek. It's been around since about 2013 is when I first started the website. And there's the YouTube, the Twitch, Facebook group, Twitter, all that jazz. You know, I have my cute little avatar. It's everything. So, you know, I've had chances to be pressed at New York Comic-Con, Atlantic City Comic-Con, Baltimore Comic-Con. So you can guess that I'm in the New Jersey tri-state area.
I love it.
Yeah, but you know, fortunately this year, COVID, so no New York Comic-Con, which is heartbreaking. This is my first time not going in 6-7 years.
Oh no.
So, but you know, so it's just, I just enjoy everything. So as you can see behind me, all my pop figures,
Pops,
whatever, all this stuff, craziness. So I'm just a huge geek and a gamer who just loves everything.
I love it. We're going to break that down all in a second here. Before we do, though, I ask every guest a single question. I'm going to ask you, just like I ask everybody else. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how weird are you, Vicki?
I'm probably a solid 9.4.
And why is that?
Well, if you can see in these hurricane jars, I have feasibly about over 150 different types of rubber duckies. When I start collecting things, I go in. I was collecting Scooby-Doo stuff. I have a Scooby-Doo tent. Why do I need that? I have a Scooby-Doo locker. I have rubber ducky everything. Now I'm into Gudetama. And the more weird, the better for me.
You know, in this space, it's not that weird though, right?
No.
And that's kind of the point of me asking that question is, you know, I ask my guests, or how weird are you? And they list off all these things that are fairly common among gamers or among people who are into anime or just comics. And
yeah.
And then at the end, they're like, oh, I guess it's not that strange. But, you know, I think we really need to find a place where we aren't telling each other we're weird. Because I think that's it. The biggest trouble we all have is we identify ourselves as weird, and because of it, we can't act normal with each other. We have to be weird. We have to one-up each other. But that's for a tirade for a different episode. So, Vicki, thank you so much. I love that answer. Now, this is the Gamerpreneur, so I do need your gaming cred. When did you first start playing video games?
I think... So I'm old. So I first started playing like on my aunt and uncle's Atari. So that's taking it back in time. But definitely I would say NES and Sega. So I have two brothers, and my brother had the Nintendo and I had the Sega. So that's how my parents kept us from fighting. It was just, we might not have had a lot of money, but my parents made sure to buy us the system so we did not fight.
Man, like, you guys didn't have rivalry beforehand, Nintendo versus Sega.
Yeah, like the beginning of the rivalry we started. So I was a Sega person. So, you know, obviously starting out with the Genesis. The Sega game had this weird penguin game. I don't know if anybody remembers it. You literally peck at the ice and an egg would fall. And you had to be careful to make sure your egg did not get crushed. That's taking it way back. Okay.
I don't remember that one. I've played a lot of games. I don't remember that one.
So Game Gear, all that. So that you can pretty much date how old I am by the fact that that's where I started.
You know, you mentioned the Game Gear. That was a sophisticated piece of equipment back then. Right.
And that was before, well, that was the same time as Game Boy, but it was like full color.
Color,
it was a hefty, blunt object. But
I remember like Kirby on the Game Boy when Kirby first came out, and he was like barely able to do anything. And you had full Sonic on the Game Gear.
Yes.
Like full stereo and everything. Everybody on the bus would be like, what's that?
Yeah, like that was an amazing quality right there. And then I guess, I don't know why we took like 5,000 steps back before we finally moved forward.
Battery life. Do you remember how quickly that thing ate batteries? Every like 2 hours, you had to slap new ones in there.
Yeah, and we barely even had rechargeable batteries back then. So.
Okay, so what do you play now?
Currently, well, I'm that person. What my aunt likes to call is disposable income. So whatever system I want, I buy it immediately. So I have everything. So I have the Switch. I have, obviously 3DS, Xbox One, PlayStation 4. So I have everything and I play whatever. But currently, obviously playing a little bit of Genshin Impact. Let's see. I've already fell off on Animal Crossing, but that's normal. You start, you fall off.
You can only collect so many sea bass.
And everybody moves away. Then you pick it up again, and then whatever. Obviously playing Fall Guys and Among Us, because that's just hilarious. And so far away, I would go grab it. But I also crochet, and I crocheted my own little Among Us character. So that puts me on the level of weird, right? Maybe I'll grab it at the end.
No, my wife crochets. She doesn't do gaming stuff, but
remind me at the end so I can grab it for you. But I crocheted my whole squad. There's 4 of us that play all the time, and I crocheted all of our characters, all of our favorite colors. Like I'm pink, and I'll definitely show you at the end. So like everybody now has their own Among Us crocheted character.
How good of a liar are you then?
Pretty good, because I'll be like, oh no, and it's great to play with friends and family because we know each other so well that we were like, oh no, you're lying. I know you're lying. So it's even harder to lie to like people who have known you all your life.
I love it. All right, kind of one more gaming question, then we're going to get into what you do for a living. But Let's say desert island scenario, Vicky. I put you on an island with one game for the rest of your life. I do give you an Ethernet cable. It's coming out of the sand somehow, but you get an Ethernet cable. What game is it?
So this is the game that I can constantly always play over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. I would have to say, so if you had asked me this before Breath of the Wild, I would say Ocarina, but I think right now it might be Breath of the Wild.
It's those Korok seeds, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, it might be Breath of the Wild because that's such a fun game to, even in the replay, value is very high for that one. My favorite game is Resident Evil, the first one, the original one, not the remake HD version or anything of that. But after I beat it under 3 hours, got the rocket launcher, you're done. So who cares? So I guess it would be Breath of the Wild.
So you actually enjoyed the original. Like I remember those controllers, and that was the most pain in the fuck controller. Like you got to turn. Now you can go straight.
Yeah, but it was always fun because you could because it was so messed up, you could make them dance, and I would make Jill dance and twirl around and yeah.
All right, love it. Now, Vicky, let's get over to the preneur part. What's your professional background? How did you get to where you are today?
Okay, so I have a master's in behavioral science. I work with the Department of Human Services over here in New Jersey, and really it's our goal to kind of look out for individuals who can't protect themselves. So I definitely do unannounced visits on group homes and everything like that to make sure our clients aren't being abused. And the realm that I'm in is for the individuals with developmental disabilities. So just, and in the middle of COVID, because we haven't been in there, we don't know what's happening. So it's really important for us. Now we're finally getting back in there to just make sure the clients aren't being abused or not being taken advantage of. And I've been in that field working with the developmentally disabled for, 15 years. Wait.
Wonderful. And that's tough.
Yeah, 15 years. Yeah.
That's tough work. I used to work for the probate court. So I would I didn't have to do the visits myself, but I did go on a couple of visits. I got to all the major incident reports and I had to review every single one.
Yeah, no, I used to do the incident reporting too. I move around a lot to just learn different parts of the overall field. So that's job number one. Job number two, I am a professor. I teach psychology at the local county college, and I've been there for like 12 years. So I'm an OG adjunct. That's what we like to call each other. But I just like to get people to be passionate about the field of psychology. I've always had a huge passion of that ever since, I don't know, middle school, in which I took my aunt's psychology book, and I was always interested in the field, which is why I'm one of the few lucky people who actually are using their degree in their field. So both jobs, I'm using my degree. So it was really great to have other people become passionate about psychology. And I prefer teaching psychology 101 because I want to build that foundation for the students and get them involved in psychology as well. And then I also can give them amazing knowledge in how to navigate the field, because I always have to stress to them, before you even finish your degree, get that year or two of experience. So as soon as you finish, you go straight into the office. You don't necessarily have to start at the group home. I mean, it builds character because nothing like dodging feces, but you can move through the field very quickly. And that's why my gamer tag is either Professor White or Professor Vicky, because I'm actually a professor.
I love it. Okay. I have to say psychology is my absolute favorite subject, mostly because I use it in marketing, right?
Yes.
It's sales psychology is so important. And very few people actually understand the relevance and importance of psychology until they actually have to use it. So let me ask you something. When you meet somebody new for the first time, do you secretly judge them?
Of course. You have to.
That person definitely has an undiagnosed condition.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that's borderline personality disorder. I'm going to stay away from you. You have a nice day. But whenever I teach that chapter on disorders, I always have to tell my students, please do not diagnose your friends and or family members. Just don't do it.
I love it. Okay. But you also do something else on the side.
Well, those are the two main jobs. But then I also, have my own business, my clothing brand, Fangirl Review, which is, obviously built out of the website. And then I do the crochet.
Okay. Can you tell us how Fangirl Review started?
Okay. So way back when, so I think probably 2012, I'm very morbid. So I started a blog called Morbid Moments, which is still out there. You can probably still find it.
Sounds like it would do fantastic, honestly.
Yeah, so it did amazing because I just, whatever weird things will pop into my head. So the one about when you're driving on a highway and you see a bunch of piles of black trash bags. In my head, I think there's body parts automatically. I think everybody thinks that, right? So that was the type of things I would write about, and everybody would agree. So it was pretty popular, but it was very much a niche type of category. And I couldn't expand my love for video games and graphic tees or any of that. So that's how Fangirl Review came about, because I wanted to expand not just the zombie stuff. I have other interests. So Fangirl Review grew from there, and now I think I kind of rebranded it back in 2018 because I got really passionate into working out and crafting and everything like that. So I'm Fangirl Review continues to just grow and grow. Whatever my interests are, is basically what it is.
I love it. Now I have to ask, because there is a stereotype. Government employees, one, but also professors, two, don't generally go into business. So what made you decide to do entrepreneurship?
Well, like they say, idle hands are the devil's playground. So with being a professor, every summer I had off. So, I would be used to working 6 days a week, and then poof, I'm only back to working my 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And now I'm bored. And that's when I was selling jam. So jam and jelly, that was my first official business. And I made Yeah, it was. I made all the jams myself. The mango ghost pepper was very popular, surprisingly. Yes, yes. But it was really good actually. And then I just started expanding more and more in this, like, I just love to learn new things. I think that's the most important part is I'm so passionate about learning that learning how to crochet, learning how to do a clothing brand with the graphic design aspect, learning SEOs, learning, like just constantly learning. I did a podcast. Fangirl Chronicles is still out there. I think we're going to scale back how much is up there so I don't have to pay for it anymore. But Fangirl Chronicles is there, So I was, I'm a huge foodie. So I'm so passionate about so many things that I just love just constantly learning more and more. So
wonderful. Now, has this road been easy for you?
I don't think it's ever been a hard road because if something doesn't work, I learn from it. So like, okay, great. Now I learned that information. And as I continue to, rebrand and change, I've already have a great foundation. Like, okay, I know, social media, I know what hashtags, I know what time to post. And so getting into YouTube, you got to learn all those different aspects. So I constantly learn more and more. Podcasting, video editing, audio editing, everything like that. I constantly learn. So when I go to the next business venture, I already have a wonderful foundation.
Beautiful. Okay, what's your next plan? What's coming next? What's coming down the pipe?
So the current thing is my clothing brand, which I was lucky enough to be granted a merch store on Amazon. And apparently I didn't realize that they actually reject people. So I was like, well, and then apparently they're like, no, you can get rejected and they won't take you ever again. I was like, oh, they're like, so be careful when you fill out that application. I'm like, well, I guess I should have read that first, but I did not. But the Fangirl Review clothing brand is up. So you just can on Amazon, just type in Fangirl Review clothing and you'll see the little Fangirl Review store come up. Beautiful. I'm actually wearing one of the shirts right now.
Can't talk. There we go.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So.
All right. Now, I got to ask, how are you balancing all of this? Because you have 2 jobs plus at least one business, it sounds like, because it sounds like
yes.
you have your fingers in different pies over here. Like, how are you handling all of this and not going insane?
I think by keeping busy, I don't go insane. I think if I was to be stagnant is when I go insane. So the busier I am, the better I am at getting things done. I learned that about myself in school, that when I didn't have a job and all I had was school, I was more likely to procrastinate. But because I have too much on my plate, I don't have time to procrastinate. So I can just constantly just be doing more and more things.
Fantastic. Okay. Now you have to be having some amazing success in all aspects of your life if you're jumping around all the time. So let me ask you, because the purpose of my show is to help others maybe see themselves in my guest and go, I really want to be like her or like him. Yeah. So what skills do you have that others don't have that you say contribute to your success?
I think my ability to network and not be afraid to reach out. I have made so many great connections with so many different people because if I see somebody, I have no problem with sending a message like, oh, hey, I would love to collaborate. Let's work on this, that, and the other. When I before I even was pressed at New York Comic Con, I was walking around with my business card and I was stopping at each booth. I was like, are you the owner? I was stopping, I was talking, I was networking, I was shaking hands. And I've made such a huge network so that when I turned around and did a convention on social media, I was able to reach out to the Cards Against Humanity people and get free stuff. I was able to reach out to different clothing brands and get stuff for us to give away. So I think my ability to network and to talk to anybody, regardless of who they are, because I have no fear. Just throw me in there. I'll talk to you. So I think that was really important for anybody as you continue to grow whatever business or anything that you're trying to do. You really have to learn to communicate and talk to people and make people feel like they have a connection with you and they want to invest in you as a person.
Absolutely. 100% on that. That's fantastic advice. All right. Now, you said you started about 2007 with your morbid moments, right?
Yeah, like 2012. It was like 2011,
Okay.
12, something like
So
that.
if you could go back 8 years into the past and you could talk to little Vicky,
Yes.
and you're like, little Vicky, this is everything that's going to happen to you over the next, 8 years or so. But here's the one thing I need you to absolutely understand and never forget. What is that one thing?
I think the most important thing is to stick with it. Like, don't stop. There's times I wish I did not stop my YouTube because I think it would have definitely been bigger than what it is now. But that's more my I flutter around. So I think always continue to grow and don't let anybody steal your smile away. I think that's the most important thing. So, because I've definitely had people kind of, as I constantly do new things, people are constantly going to, look at you, judge you, put you down like, oh, whatever, I'm not going to support that. So no matter what, don't let anybody else steal your smile and keep going.
Absolutely. And kind of on that note, so you said you are in social work. Do you find that people have an opinion about you because of the work you do, even though you have other things going on the side?
Well, I think a lot of times people think people who work in the public sector or whatever, they think that we are in it for the check. And I'm like, the check is not that big. I'm in it because I care and I want people to be protected. I would want, if something, God forbid, happened to my family member, I would want to know that there's somebody like me there to advocate for them. And by being in this field, I've learned so much. So, as my grandparents got older and we needed services, I was like, oh no, this is what we need to do. So I'm the social services contact, and I constantly help out other people. Even, I might not know about that exactly what that person might need, but I can tell you, like, advocate for your children in school. Like, you are entitled to a school advocate. Don't let them bust your child away. They are on the hook until your child turns 21. Well, in the state of New Jersey, they are on the hook for your child turns 21. So get the work, the job coaching and everything like that. So I'm constantly I enjoy being an advocate. So whether I'm advocating for, services, advocating for any education, that's just my passion. So.
Beautiful. And it's very clear that you are very passionate. I love it.
And I'm such a Jersey girl. That's why I talk with my hands a lot.
That's right. I've had to learn to do that on my show just because otherwise it's just me standing here, right? It's like,
oh.
All right. What advice do you have for anybody out there who would want to follow in your footsteps, regardless of whichever position? Like, you've done so much, you've accomplished so much. What advice do you have for people?
I think the most important thing for anybody who wants to continue in any of the multiple fields that I have ventured into is to take the time to research and educate yourself on whatever it is you want to do. And once you do that, reach out to people in that field because they can give you the tricks that you would need to know when you're first starting out. So that's why I like to tell my students, please, even if it's working in the group home, working in the day program, go work in the field. You want to learn if that is the field for you. That's very important because you can be passionate about something, but that might not be the field for you. I was very passionate about therapy, but I realized as I was going through my master's that I did not want to sit and listen to somebody. I would love helping out friends and family, but to sit there 9 to 5 listening to somebody every day was not for me. So it's very important for you to learn about whatever it is you're passionate about and then reach out to people in that field so you can just get a taste of it to confirm that's what you want to do.
Okay. I have another question. It's not anywhere close to my list, but how often exactly do people throw feces at you?
When you're in a group home, that's it can get a little wild.
Yeah, I can say I don't think I've ever had anyone throw feces at me. They've thrown other things at me, but not.
Yeah. Usually, you would get more spitting than feces, but you'll get fecal smearing more than, but like there's people who throw, but then they like to smear. So they might touch your shirt. I mean, and it's not that they're doing it maliciously. They might touch your shirt and there you go.
Okay, let's pull back for a second.
Okay.
I want to talk about you a little more personally if we can, Vicki.
Sure.
I believe that we learn the most in life when we fail. When we get smacked in the face, you get knocked down, you have to figure out what went wrong, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and then be able to move forward. So I'd like to ask you, what do you consider your biggest failure in life, and what did you learn from it?
Okay, so my biggest failure in life, I don't think I've had any like huge failures. I think maybe my podcast didn't do as wonderful as I would want it to have done, but I learned that that might not have been the best field for me, and that I need to be careful with who I bring along with me as I grow my brand. Because sometimes when you on a podcast, you depend on that second person to work with you. And when they stop, things crumble. So I think, but you want to still maintain that relationship, which is hard because you're like, okay, still want to be friends with you, but you kind of left me in a lurch. So I think maybe that biggest failure was the potential for a friendship being lost. So really, I just learned to not necessarily always let friendships are more important than what that business was. So while the business is gone, I built that friendship back up and I was able to save it. So it's okay if the podcast didn't become, this huge thing. I learned from it, I grow from it, and who knows, maybe Fat Girl Chronicles will come back. It still exists out there.
All right. What's something you're working on and improving in yourself today?
I am working on meditation. That's actually something that I'm working on because my brain is constantly moving and running, as you can tell just talking to me. I'm constantly always. So I'll try to lay down to sleep and I'll be like, oh, that'll be amazing graphic design. I'll jump up out the bed, grab my laptop, and I'm designing. And I'm like, no. So just taking the time to actually light candles and center myself. I'm really trying to read and meditate and kind of help myself to calm down and guide myself wherever I'm supposed to be.
I will tell you, I'm a lot like you. Like it takes me at least an hour to fall asleep because I'm like thinking of the day,
yes.
Instead of jumping up, I've learned to take like just little strips of paper and writing down what it was I said or I needed to do. That way I can look at it tomorrow and like that way it's off my mind, it's somewhere else.
Exactly.
One more kind of fun question, and then we'll kind of start bringing this in for a landing.
Okay.
What is something that you think people misunderstand about you the first time they meet you?
I think they might misunderstand that I am not always happy. I might constantly be smiling and laughing, but psychology, facial feedback, if you smile, you do feel better. So I do have sad days. I like to call them burrito days, which is when you wrap yourself up in a little burrito and you just mentally calm yourself. So I think people misinterpret or believe that I live a charmed life, and I don't. Like, yes, I grew up in a 2-parent household. Yes, I went to college. Yes, I was on a scholarship. So yeah, a lot of things were great, but that doesn't mean I have a charmed life. We all have our own struggles, whatever they may be.
Wonderful. All right. How was it, Professor, with somebody else asking you the questions?
That was pretty good. It's nice to be interviewed versus me doing the interviewing, which is a lot of times what it always is. And, not having to lecture for 3 hours.
Do you lecture or do you use Socratic method?
Lecture.
Okay. How is that?
I like lecturing. It's fun.
Okay.
I enjoy it.
It's been so many years since I've had anybody lecture at me. So all right. Vicki White, this has been fantastic. How do people find you? How do they reach out? Where are you at on social media? What's your handles?
Okay. So For the most part, I'm Professor White 518 on Instagram, a Fangirl Review on Twitch. I am trying to get better at my streaming schedule. I stream, but not always on the best schedule. Fangirl Review on YouTube, fangirlreview.com was the website, and Professor White on Twitter, and Professor White on Xbox and all that.
Beautiful. All right. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share, or anything I didn't ask you think we still need to cover?
No, that was great. No, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm genuinely appreciative of you coming on. Thank you so much, Nikki.
Thank you. Yay.
All right. And for everybody else, I'm going to remind you all, don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.